Hey you guys, welcome to our Norwex party. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Kelly J and I am here to give you kind of a Norwex 101 basics, and we're gonna get really sciencey nerdy tonight with Norwex and microfibers. So first, thank you so much for coming. As you're coming into the party group, please say hi. Tell us where you're from. Tell us if you are a Norwex newbie, if you're a skeptic, if you love Norwex. We would love to hear that. As I'm talking, I want to try to be really efficient with my time and your time, so I'm probably not going to respond to your questions and while I'm doing the demo, but after I'm done, I promise I will go back and respond to everything. So make sure you comment and I will see it and I will get back to you, okay? So first of all, if you can, grab a pen, a piece of paper, because you might want to take notes. I'm going to talk kind of fast, and depending upon how many times you've heard this, you will forget 90% of what I say 1 week from tonight. That's actually brain science. But when you write it down, what you're hearing goes deeper into your brain and you can remember it longer. So the first thing I want to talk to you guys about is microfiber. Norwex we're known for our microfiber. So Norwex's mission is to radically reduce the toxins that you bring into your home. Now, I can't control what my kids and my family comes in contact with when we leave our house, when they go to school, when we go to the grocery store. I can't control what people have used to clean, what they're spraying in the air fresheners in the bathroom. That we can't control, but I can 100% control what I bring into my home, from the food we eat to our cleaning products, our personal care products, and everything in between. So that's part of Norwex's mission, is to reduce the toxins that we bring into our home, where we're spending most of our time. And the main way that we do that is through microfiber. So this is Norwex's microfiber, and this is a cheap microfiber cloth. Now, Norwex did not invent microfiber. Actually, you can go lots of places and find it. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Walmart, you can go to the dollar store, the auto store. Microfiber has been around for a really long time, and you probably have some in your house right now. What I have found over the years is that most people don't really like the way microfiber feels, like cheap microfiber, because they feel like it pulls at their skin, like it's grabbing their skin, or it feels kind of yucky and it gives them the willies. But Norwex microfiber is a much higher quality, and most people that use it don't have that same reaction to it. So I'm going to tell you the 3 ways that this Norwex cloth is vastly different from this cheaper microfiber cloth that you might have lying around your home. So on your paper, if you're taking notes, number it 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to talk about those 3 ways. And then I'm going to show you 2 really powerful germ demos, and then that'll be our demo for tonight. So the first way that the cloths are different is the size of the fiber. So number 1 is size of fibers. To be classified as microfiber, the fibers just have to be split to 1/6 the size of a human hair. So imagine plucking a hair off of your head and slicing it 6 times. That's the size of the fibers in traditional microfiber. That's pretty micro, like that's pretty impressive to have fibers split that small. But Norwex microfiber takes that to a whole nother level. Norwex microfibers are guaranteed to be split to at least 1/200th the size of a human hair. So imagine plucking one hair off of your head and slicing it 200 times. That's the size of the fibers in Norwex microfiber. So these fibers are 1/6 the size of a human hair. These are 1/200th the size of a human hair. That's almost mind-boggling. Like, my mind really doesn't understand how that works. But then it gets even better, because these fibers are also star-shaped. So instead of having cylindrical fibers that run through the cloth, the fibers are shaped like stars. Like, they have all these little arms that kind of go out from the fibers microscopically. So that's number 1. And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, that's really cool that these fibers are so microscopic. I'm turning my light down just a little, that's kind of bright. That's better. But what does that matter? Like, why should we care that the fibers are so small? And this is where I'm gonna have to like not go science nerd on you guys, because I really can get super dorky about this if you guys like science. Now, I will say here, and I'll say this a couple times, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor. This is just my house, this is my kitchen, but I really love science, and I love to learn, and I love to read, and I love to, you know, think critically. So that's kind of where we're going with this. So number 2 is the density of the cloth. So because those fibers are so tiny, you can get way more in this cloth than in this cloth. And I want you to think about it like luxury linens. When you go stay at a fancy hotel and you're sleeping on like 1,000 thread count cotton sheets versus your 200 thread count sheets from Target, there's a huge difference. You can see the quality, you can feel it, and there's a price difference. And what that means is that in a square inch, on your expensive linens, there's 1,000 threads in 1 square inch. Versus over here, your Target linens, there's only 200 threads per square inch. So that's the quality difference that you can see and feel, and that's why those luxury linens are so much more expensive. And it's the same with the microfibers. So because this is split to 1/200th the size of a human hair versus 1/6 the size of a human hair, you can get way, way, way more fiber in this cloth than in this cloth. So if I unravel this cloth, it has 10 million feet of fiber. It's one continuous thread, and it would stretch from Canada all the way to the Gulf of Mexico in this one cloth. And I actually have a real scientist on my Norwex team. She's a biologist, and she did the math. Like, she's even nerdier than I am, and she calculated that this cloth has a surface area of 115 square feet in one cloth, you guys. So that is going to lead into how and why this cloth removes 99% of bacteria from your surfaces, and this one doesn't. So here's the thing. The surface area is really, really important, and this is kind of like the magic sauce. So remember, these fibers are microscopic and they're star-shaped and giving it a huge surface area. So think of a gecko. Some of you guys have heard me say this many, many times, but when you've gone to a pet store or a zoo, you've seen geckos just kind of clinging effortlessly. They cling to the side of a glass tank, they cling to a leaf, a tree branch, they cling upside down, and you know, all different ways. So for forever, no one really understood the mechanism of how that was happening. Nobody knew how geckos could do that because they don't have suction cups on their feet. They don't have mucus that they're excreting. There's not some fluid that they're oozing. Is kind of a mystery until a scientist named Dr. van der Waal discovered, and you can go Google this, go look up van der Waal's theory, but he discovered under a microscope that a gecko has millions of microscopic hairs on their feet. So this is the science, the physics, the cool part. Every single hair, when it comes in contact with the surface, creates a tiny amount of friction. Just that one little hair creates a tiny amount of friction. But when you multiply that out over millions of microscopic hairs over all 4 feet, it's enough friction with the surface to allow them to cling. The Norwex microfiber, you guys, works the exact same way. All of those little microscopic star-shaped fibers, as it's coming in contact with the surface, it's creating friction, just the same as the gecko. And as you're wiping it over your surface, it acts almost as if it's like a vacuum, lifting everything up off your surface, out of grooves, out of cracks, out of pores, out of grout, and trapping it into the cloth, versus if you were using a paper towel or a sponge or a cotton rag and you're just kind of smushing things around. Where this is actually lifting things up off your surface and trapping it deep inside those fibers. It's so cool, you guys. So I could really honestly keep talking about that, but probably most of you don't care, so I'm going to keep moving on to the number 3 thing that, the third thing that sets our cloths apart. And that's this thing right here called backlock. So all of the cloths that have silver say backlock on them. And now here's where sometimes there's some misunderstanding. So if you've been around Norwex a while, I really want to make sure that this third point is really clear. So the silver in the cloth is another really fun thing to go Google. Silver has been used medicinally for thousands of years. It's a natural antiviral and antibacterial. It has those properties to it, and so germs cannot survive in a silver environment. That's why there's silvadine cream used on burn victims A very good friend of mine, her husband had a really horrific motorcycle accident, and he had an open wound on his backside that was not healing, and so they packed it with silver bandages. So anyway, what the silver does has nothing to do with the surface you're cleaning. What the silver does is it purifies the cloth itself. So you have no more like funky, moldy, mildewy, stinky, musty dish rags and sponges and even bath towels and washcloths. Because once you've cleaned your surface, you take your Norwex cloth over to the sink, you rub it under hot water really, really well, flip it over, rub it some more, wring it out and hang it to dry. And as it dries, those silver ions go to work on what's left behind. And the way the silver ions work is they attach themselves to the germs and they stop those cells from respirating, eating, and reproducing. So they just die in their normal life cycle versus being killed by a chemical. So they aren't able to reproduce and all of that stuff. And the bacteria, when it's eating like food debris you've wiped from your counter or skin cells that you've used in the shower, that's what you're smelling, is they're reproducing and the waste that they're creating. So it's really kind of gross. And that's another reason why you don't even have to launder these cloths that often. So you're saving time and money because you don't have to wash the Norwex cloths really very often at all. Like our old generational way of thinking is if I clean the toilet, I have to wash the cloth. But with Norwex, you don't have to do that. Like you can clean your toilet, rinse the cloth out, let it dry, and the next day you can keep using it. So, but that's baby steps. We'll talk about that. Okay, so we've talked about the 3 ways that the cloths are different. Now I'm going to show you 2 germ demos. So the first one is a protein demo. So this is a protein tester swab. These do come from a lab, and I just want to insert here again, this is not a lab. This is my personal kitchen where my family eats their meals every day. And so I don't have a way to test for bacteria. I don't have trays of E. coli. This is not like a sanitized, science lab. But I can test for protein relatively easily and inexpensively. So these I buy from a science lab. They only come in packs of 100, so they, you got to be kind of serious to want them. But the health inspectors use these to spot check, restaurants and places like that for contamination. So I would encourage you to not take my word for it, but go to the Googles and look up, like I'm winking at you, size of protein on a micron scale and draw your own conclusions, okay? So what I have is a piece of raw chicken. This is my party chicken. This piece of chicken comes to all my parties and it's getting a little funky, but this piece of chicken I take out of the freezer, use it at a party like this, and then I put it back in the freezer. So it's getting kind of gross. Now, I am also going to use just the tag side of my cloth for only so you can see that I'm not trying to be sneaky and fold it when you're not looking to make the test work. That's not what I'm doing. The tag side also has no extra special cleaning properties. It's just for the purpose of the test. Just so you can see that I'm being truthful. Okay, looking for a piece of paper here. I always forget to grab a white piece of paper. So what I do is I'll break this, and you can see that it is green, and if it detects protein, it'll turn gray or purple, like it happens pretty quick. All right, so I'm gonna put that there. My chicken is kind of funky right here. I don't know if you guys can see the chicken juices on the counter. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna take my EnviroCloth here. I'm just trying to make sure you guys can see everything. Tag side is down, and remember, we want the surface area to touch the, like the cloth to touch the surface for the most surface area. So wadding your cloth isn't really recommended, especially when you're done. You don't want to wad the cloth to dry. You want it to be able to dry. So a flat surface when you're wiping is really best. All right, so there's my cloth. Now I'm going to take my swab and I'm going to just really go over this whole area. And I'm going to put it in the solution. I'm going to let it sit for just a minute. So the cloth that I'm using is my EnviroCloth, and I tell people that the E at EnviroCloth stands for everything. This is my everything cleaning cloth. This is my cloth for my toilet, my counters, my weird wall grubby marks that I don't know where they're coming from, old carpet stains, if the dog piddles or the kids throw up, like this is my heavy duty cleaning cloth. All right, so you guys can see it's staying green. The next thing I want to show you guys, because I do get asked this question a lot, is well, what if I'm in my kitchen and I want to go to the bathroom, or in my bathroom and I want to go to another room? Am I going to be transferring those germs from one surface to the next? So I'm going to take that same side of my cloth, put it back on my counter, and wipe my counter again. And then I'm going to swab it again. And you're going to see that it's going to still stay green. I think this light's kind of bright. Let me see if I can take it down a notch. So I am a busy, kind of lazy mom who, like, cleaning isn't my favorite thing. So if I'm in the mode to clean, I've got my one cloth and I'm going around my whole house to clean. Now, if I'm in my bathroom and I'm going to move on to another room, I will rinse my cloth out under hot water and wring it out really well, but I'm going to keep going. But if you're kind of baby stepping your way into green cleaning, then have more than one cloth. Have a cloth that's just for your bathroom, and a cloth that's just for your kitchen, and a cloth maybe that's just for upstairs and just for downstairs. So you can totally have multiple cloths. That's totally fine. And now the last test I'm going to do with you guys is actually swab the cloth itself. Because in just my everyday cleaning, I want to show you guys that the germs are not just resting on the surface of the cloth. They're microscopically, like, deep down inside those star-shaped fibers. So you can see it's staying green. And now, to show you guys that this test actually does detect protein, because you might be thinking, well, is that test even working? I'm going to go ahead and swab my piece of chicken here. And you're going to see very quickly that it turns purple. Pretty dang fast, all right? So I just want to show you guys really quick, too, that this cloth, like, I totally trust the science of this. And I can touch it to my face, and I'm not grossed out by it, because I know that those germs are off my counter, and they're not resting on the surface of my cloth. Isn't that crazy? So anyway, if you have any questions about that particular test, please ask. Don't forget to look up the size of protein on a micron scale, because the next thing I want to show you guys is this. Now, if this is or was your life before Norwex, no judgment here. This is chemical cleaning. This is mechanical cleaning. So they both are based in science. They both work, but they both have, they work in different ways, and they have different kind of consequences. So before Norwex, I was a classroom teacher. And this is how I cleaned my classroom. I taught kindergarten, I taught first grade, I taught in an inner city school. 1 year I had 28 kindergarten students. It was crazy. And so I always asked for these from my parents, from my principal, and every Friday I would hand these out to my students, and I would say, all right guys, go clean something, and they did, all right? So I'm really kind of ashamed to admit that in all of my years, as much as I love reading and science and learning, I never, ever, ever one time read the directions. My son, who is now 16, was a baby when I was using these, and I would clean his high chair and his baby toys and our toilets and all of that stuff with these wipes. I am going to read the directions to you. So this says to clean and disinfect. Wipe your hard, non-porous surface. Now, if your surface has pores, or grout, or divots, I guess it's not going to work, but anyway. Wipe your hard, non-porous surface with a sheet until your surface is visibly wet. Okay, I always did that. Allow your surface to remain wet. Can you guys, you probably can't see it very well, but it says for 10 minutes. So when I was a classroom teacher and I had 28 kindergarten students in an inner city that most of them didn't speak English, I don't really know, like in my mind, I don't really know how on earth I could have kept any surface wet for 10 minutes. let alone all the surfaces wet. Like we had classroom toys, we had computer mouses and chairs and light switches and desktops. And I can also remember the wipes that we were given, it seemed like when you would wipe the surface, it would evaporate like as you were wiping. So it just was really hard for me to imagine doing that as a classroom teacher or even as a young mother. And then I also felt like I would have not saved money or time. And every time you throw one of these away, like this is literally throwing money away. This is cash in the trash. And these are not biodegrading. Like these are not helping the planet at all. So anyway, I was never doing that. Then it says, do not flush in toilet. Rinse food contact surfaces with clean, potable water after disinfecting. Do not use on dishes, glassware, utensils as a diaper wipe or for personal cleaning. So that is the other thing that really gives me like guilt as an educator and as a mom, is that I was never, ever rinsing surfaces after we used these wipes. So not only was I not killing the germs like I thought I was exposing my students and my own son to those toxins. So my son would put baby toys in his mouth. My students would eat snacks off their desk. And they're just ingesting the germs, the dirt, and the chemicals. So it was a pretty awful cycle. So what I have for you guys tonight is a glow germ demo. This is glow germ powder. It simulates bacteria under a black light, and it was actually designed to help like medical students practice their hand washing techniques, because it's pretty hard to like get rid of it actually. So I'm gonna wipe, or I'm gonna kind of rub it in. And then I'm just gonna go down the middle here. So I'm gonna take that wipe that I ripped off. And I honestly hate demoing this because I have to use these wipes, but I think it's really important that you guys see. And then I'll go turn off my lights. So first, I'm going to do half of my area here with a wipe. I'm just kind of really wiping it down. And now I'm going to do the other half with my Norwex EnviroCloth. I put a lot of powder on there. All right, so now I'm going to go turn off the light, and then I will turn on my black light. And I should turn off my ring light too. That would be helpful. All right. So here is the side with the wipes, and here's the Norwex side. Can you even believe it? Now here's the thing. When I was a teacher, I told my kids, and I thought to myself, if your wipe is still wet, keep wiping, because I thought the magic was in the wetness, like the chemicals that were in there. And so I would even go desk to desk to desk. So if I'm wiping, you know, Susie's desk here, and then I go over and start wiping John's desk here, I'm just putting those germs from one surface to the next. And let's just say that I followed the directions and that this surface stayed wet for 10 minutes. Let's just say I did that and I could do that. All that dead germ is still there. Like the chemicals are there and the dead germs are still there. So that's just not something that I want to expose my kids to anymore. So now if I take this EnviroCloth that has the germs on it, or you know, that germ powder, and I go back over my surface, my EnviroCloth is such a workhorse, I can still pick up all of that powder. And I will just turn it inside out so I can get the rest of it. But see how it just took all that off? It didn't put any of that germ powder back on the surface, and it removed the rest of it. Crazy. Easy, right? Okay, so let me turn on my light again. It's all a little too bright. All right. I know that demo, I didn't even see it until I had been with Norwex for a couple of years, and it blew my mind. It shocked me. So I just want to say a couple things. first, you have to take the knowledge, take the information that I'm giving you, and use your own critical thinking skills and do what you think is best for your family. If you feel like this is best for your family, then use them. I just ask that you follow the directions. Otherwise, you're not doing what you think you're doing. I will paint a couple, I'm going to give you a couple analogies and paint a couple pictures for you though. So let's just say that I was able in my house somehow to keep all my surfaces wet for 10 minutes. My doorknobs, my handles on my appliances, the buttons on the microwave, the buttons on the refrigerator, the countertops, the toilet, the flusher, the remote control, like all the surfaces I would want to have clean and disinfected. Let's just say somehow I did all of that wet for 10 minutes and I went through maybe 3 of these tubs. Well, I didn't really save any money, but let's just say I did that. Then, if somebody comes home and they're sick and they sneeze, I have to do the whole process again. I have to start over completely with my sanitizing practices. But with Norwex, all I have to do is just take my cloth and wipe my surfaces. I don't have to wait. I don't have to let time pass or rinse the surface again. Once I've wiped, those germs are gone. And my husband one year got the norovirus. Was it norovirus or rotavirus? It doesn't matter. Whichever one makes you have the runs, and he was so sick. And that's highly contagious. And so I gave him an EnviroCloth and I just said, wherever you go, please just wipe. Like if you've walked through and gone to the bathroom, just like wipe the handles and things as you go by. And he did, and none of us got it. I could not believe it. The other thing I want to mention is this right here. It says kills 99.9% of bacteria and viruses. So I think it's important for us to remember how viruses work. So a virus needs a host. All viruses are a little bit different. I'm not speaking to any one virus in particular, but in general, a virus has to have a host to survive. They can survive on their own for varying amounts of time, some a few hours, some a few days, some maybe a week. But basically the way a virus works is it's a chunk of RNA or a chunk of DNA and it's wrapped in a protein sheath. And then that virus finds the host cell that it's looking for, and it's got those like ugly leg things, and it attaches itself to that host cell. It injects its chunk of RNA or chunk of DNA into that host cell, and then as that cell dies, baby viruses kind of spew from it. And those baby viruses are a little bit of the parent virus and a little bit of the host cell. So that's why viruses are always changing. They're constantly changing, and that's why they're hard to deal with. And so if we are killing 99.9% of them, that means the healthy, strong, bad guy ones are breeding and hosting, the 0.1% of the bacteria. So the strong ones are breeding or, replicating in the strong ones. And so what we're doing is we are over sanitizing and we're overusing antibiotics. And my sciencey friend who I referenced earlier, we were just having a generic conversation one day, not even about Norwex. But she said, she believes in our lifetime we will become a post-antibiotic society because we've overused antibiotics and we've overcleaned everything. And that means when you get sick, your kid gets an ear infection, antibiotics aren't going to help them. So these are the things we have to think about, when we're choosing something that seems fast and easy. We really do need to think about the long-term consequences beyond just using it today because it's there and it's fast and it's easy. And so with these two options, here's the best two analogies I can give you. If I have 2 cups of water and I hand them to you, like you get to choose which one you want to drink, in this cup, they both look the same. They both have crystal clear ice water. But in this cup, the germs are killed. And in this cup, the germs are removed. Which cup do you want to drink from? The one that has dead germs in it or the one that has no germs in it? And then the other analogy I can give you is imagine you have a weed in your yard. You have a dandelion. I love dandelions. I'm a beekeeper, so we love them in our yard. So we don't take them out. But let's say you have a weed in your yard and you don't want it there. The chemical way of dealing with it is spraying a poison, say Roundup or some similar poison. When you do that, you are spraying the weed. The weed is still there, even if it's dead or dying. And then you've also put that poison into the ground. So then it can seep into the groundwater. It can affect the humans and the animals that come in contact with it. And it may or may not have killed. Sometimes you've sprayed a weed and it comes back the very next day or the very next week. But with mechanical, say you have that dandelion or that weed there, if you just get your shovel out and a little elbow grease and you dig it up out of the ground and pull that root out, you have physically removed it. There's no dandelion there or weed at all anymore. You didn't have to apply a poison. You didn't have to spray anything. You didn't have to wait for any amount of time to pass. You just plucked it out. It's totally gone. It's not going to come back. And so that's how this one works. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions about that? So I know a lot of people ask me about like the big virus that we're all dealing with right now, and how does Norwex work with that? And all I can say is that Norwex, the only claim that they're allowed to make by the government is that we remove 99% of bacteria from surfaces. To be able to make the claim that it kills a virus, the EPA says that it has to be a registered pesticide. And so whenever you're killing a small thing, you're also killing living big things, and you're a living big thing. It might not kill you right away, it might be a lot slower, but it still affects your health. So because the EPA has not made any kind of a regulation for a textile to remove a virus, Norwex is legally not allowed to make that claim. Now, when we get sick in our house or when things happened a year ago, we didn't change anything. We didn't change any of our practices. We didn't go back to old habits. We just kept doing what we were doing. And when we went out in public, we just take one of these with us. So anyway, I get a little bit soapboxy there. At the end of the day, you make the best decisions for your family, and we are here to help you. No judgment one way or the other. And even if you're just dipping your toes in the toxin-free living waters, like, we're happy to walk alongside you on that journey. And we all kind of arrive there on our own time, at our own pace. So thank you so much for watching tonight. I will make sure I go back and look at your comments and answer any questions. And if you have any other questions or need anything, please comment below or tag me. All right, have a great night, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you soon. Bye.